Mexican police let a known drug dealer get away who was under federal indictment also in the kidnapping of an American drug agent in Mexico. That's the charge being made now by the head of drug enforcement in the U.S., Francis Mullen.
One of those whom we suspect, one of those traffickers involved in the kidnapping, was spotted in an aircraft leaving Guadalajara on Saturday night. He was stopped by Mexican police, the judicial police, and allowed to leave. And we now learn that he had as protection members of the DFS, of the Department of Federal Security.
Mullen has previously accused Mexican police of not doing enough to find the kidnappers of American drug agent Enrique Camarena, who was taken at gunpoint in Guadalajara earlier this month. For example, they waited 2 days, he says, before launching their investigation. And it was that kind of delay that led to the border searches of every car returning to the U.S., a search not expected to find Camarena or his kidnappers, but intended to cause long lines and a public outcry that would put pressure on the Mexican government. Those border searches have now been relaxed, and Mullen is stopping short of accusing top officials of helping the drug dealers.
I don't know if I would go so far as to say cover-up, but there may be some complicity at the lower levels of the law enforcement.
And while Mullen says Mexico is now cooperating more fully, congressional and state leaders in this country charge that it is the United States that is not doing enough to stop the flow of drugs from south of the border.
Well, I think it's too little too late. I think that we should have talked about cutting out the economic assistance to them a long time ago for their failure to cooperate.
Frankly, what we're doing today in this country is really very little more than a skirmish against the war on drugs. We're spending $200 million this year at the federal level to fight narcotics. We'll spend $1 billion in Texas over the next 2 years just to hold the people we have in our penitentiary.
Furthermore, tonight Newsweek magazine is reporting that Mexican police let another suspected drug kingpin slip away, Juan Matta Ballesteros, who American drug agents had tracked to an apartment in Mexico City. But Newsweek says the head of the Mexican Federal Judicial Police personally delayed the raid on that apartment for 2 days, and by the time police showed up, Matta had disappeared.
There were 4 people who kidnapped him. It is obvious from the way the kidnapping was carried out and the fact that Enrique Camarena walked to the car of these individuals that he knew them. Certainly he knew at least 2 of them, or he wouldn't have walked over there openly. It now is evident from the good work that has been done by the Attorney General's office that at least those 2 were supposedly officers of the law. Mr. Meisel again, pardon me.
Rich Meisel, New York Times. Does the fact that the Attorney General's office has made this progress in the case account for what seems on your part to be somewhat of a softer tone in discussing all of this and the relationship with Mexico than, say, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago?
Mr. Meisel, I see no difference in my tone. I think we've addressed this relationship, and certainly my conversations with officials of the Mexican government have always been carried out in an amicable and most respectful manner. They continue to be. But of course, we're very pleased by the developments. We hope there will be a full and complete resolution of this case. I repeat something I've said earlier. We look for the perpetrators of these detestable and heinous crimes to be brought to the bar of justice. Did you have a question?
James Bach, Baltimore Sun. Do you have any new information on the whereabouts of Mr. Caro Quintero, or can you confirm that, as was reported in one Mexico City paper this morning, he was involved in a shooting at a wedding in Culiacan 2 weeks ago?
We know nothing about the last item you mentioned. We continue to believe, and all of the indications and proofs and clues continue to point to his complicity and that of Felix Gallardo and several other major drug traffickers in this affair. They are obviously the intellectual authors, if you want to call them that, of this detestable crime. and they are still at large. We don't know where they are. We don't know if the Mexican authorities at this moment know where they are. We look for them to be brought to the bar of justice, too.
George Nathanson, CBS News. Mr. Ambassador, Mexico is being accused very widely, including statements out of Washington as well as in the press, of if not being a corruptive society, then indeed all of this drug problem here is the result of corruption. What appears to be to many that of these pressures placed upon Mexico by the United States, as you said yourself, the closing of the Operation Intercept was to show your serious concern. Do you think that this is a leading? Will the fast reference of the Attorney General's office and working with these people, arrests and all of this, is this relieving Mexico of certain suspicions of being a corruptive society?
I would, Mr. Nathanson, return to what President de la Madrid has said on this matter. It is a cancer in both our societies. We agree wholeheartedly with that. I noted that in the March 18th edition of Time magazine, there were letters to the editor from American citizens, apparently, which reflect that very same concern. When we are accused of being the problem, we certainly cannot deny that we are at least a major part of the problem. I would simply say that you said that corruption has brought about the drug trafficking. I think in most cases, at least in what we're dealing with specifically, it's the other way around. It is the drug trafficking that has caused this corruption. It is the drug trafficking that has made it possible for these kingpins to buy off the services and the loyalties of a great many people, including people supposedly defending the law rather than going against it. But once again, let me repeat, I don't believe we can be sanctimonious. And let me also repeat that we have every assurance that the President of Mexico and the officials around him are doing the best they can to combat this situation. Yes, sir.
Warm of the Washington Post.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me come back to you, Mr. Orm, please.
Keith Rosenblum, the Arizona Daily Star. Do you know when we might expect the remaining remote border stations to be opened?
The answer to that question is as soon as possible. And what we're trying to do at this point, as I understand it, is develop security measures that will allow us to open those remaining stations. I say there are 5 now. And if 9 of them, I would point out to you again, if I may, accepted 0.5% of all the traffic at the border, then 5 accept considerably less. So even though it's a nuisance for the people immediately involved, we ask their patience and their forbearance, and they will be opened, I repeat, as soon as possible. We have those assurances from Customs. Now, Mr. Orm, please.
Yes, do you have any information about the reported seizure of a jet in Texas, supposedly belonging to Caro Quintero? Under what grounds it was seized, and if this is the beginning of further such actions?
I've asked my Customs attaché to please get me that information. At this moment, we don't have a response. We know only what perhaps you know, what we saw in the news. Good-looking aircraft.
Juan Vasquez, LA Times again. In your prepared statement, you mentioned that gratitude at the fact that some of the people believed to be involved in the kidnapping and murder had been arrested. Do you have evidence, or does the embassy believe that there were others involved in addition to those who have been arrested? And do you have information that any of those might be also members of police agencies?
Of course, we believe that there are others. In the case of the 4 specific kidnappers, only 2, it is our understanding this time, have been brought in. In fact, there's some confusion about whether there are 2 or 1. I'm trying to get that clarified, but I understood 2. The other 2 are still at large. We look for them to be brought in, to be indicted, and to be judged. Obviously, we have to say that there, unfortunately, will also be some other elements supposedly defending the law and wearing badges that will be brought in. At least this is what we understand from the Mexican authorities. They themselves are fully aware and have assured us that they are aware that they have a house cleaning process there. So, based on what they have told us, I think we have to say yes.
Maybe one other, is there another?
Yes.
Vincent
two others.
Shidolsky, Chicago Tribune. You had made reference earlier.
Excuse me, I didn't catch your name, sir.
Vincent Shidolsky from the Chicago Tribune. There have been references made earlier to the possibility that drug traffickers moving out of South America were relocating to other countries. I was wondering if in the course of this investigation you'd come up with any information that would lead us to believe that this is taking place here in Mexico.
Well, we already know about Colombian connections. One man, Mr. Matta Ballesteros, got away, and we thought he would be a link in this particular situation. I'm sure you're aware of the fact that 33% by our estimates of the cocaine entering the United States is coming through Mexico, that Mexico is being used as a trampoline. Some of it is coming in refined, and some of it is coming in raw stages and being treated in laboratories here. The authorities here are quite concerned with that. Some laboratories have been found, but the very fact that you would have this massive amount of this particular narcotic coming through here indicates that there is indeed a connection. And I would refer you also to the statements recently by the Secretary of State on the connection through Nicaragua and through Cuba as well. Well, should we have one more English question, and then let's go to Spanish, if it's all right, at least for a bit. Two English questions? Very good.
Joe and Rich.
Let's make them brief if we can.
Joseph Barnes. Can you verify whether or not Juan Matta Ballesteros is related to a Honduran guerrilla leader who was killed crossing in from Nicaragua a few years ago?
I have no information about that at this time. It's an interesting question. We'd like to know. Another question from over here. I guess it's Mr. Meisland again, and then you, sir.
No, Rich,
Do you have any information that yesterday's raid in Sonora, where they on the estate where they expected to find Caro Quintero, failed also as a result of private information from police forces?
Unfortunately, this has been the pattern, that information leaks out. Obviously, it leaks out because some people are being merchants of benefits. It stands to reason that if you raid a place and find it empty, somebody has got the word that it's not a healthy place to be.
What's the current status of the search for the kidnapped agent in Mexico?
Well, as you are aware, the Agent Camarena disappeared on February 7th. And almost 3 weeks now has passed. We've received no word from those who abducted him, and we have no idea today of his whereabouts or his current status.
We're reading the Newsweek is reporting that Mexican authorities actually helped him get out of the country or get away from Guadalajara. Maybe you can clear that up.
Yeah, what happened on the Saturday following the kidnapping, one of the suspects in the kidnapping was at an airport in Guadalajara. He was on an aircraft prepared to leave. We asked that he be detained because there was a warrant outstanding for this individual, Caro Quintero. There was a confrontation between different units of the Mexican police forces, the DFS and the Mexican Federal Judicial Police, and after some discussion, he was allowed to depart. His current whereabouts are unknown.
Intentionally or unintentionally?
Well, it appears at this point as though that were intentional.
You have been under a threat. Are you still?
Yes, the threat is still there. I think very real, not only myself but other high-ranking DEA officials, but we've taken precautions and we believe we have the situation under control.
We understand that there is a contract out and indeed hit squads operating in this country now. Can you confirm that?
I cannot confirm hit squads, the plural. There are some individuals on whom we've had reports.
This marks a change in the war, doesn't it? The drug warlords actually taking the initiative to come after you in the United States.
Yes, and this tells me that we are winning. This is a desperate act, or these are desperate actions on their part. The kidnapping of an agent, the threatening of an agency head. They're very bold, very audacious actions, but it tells me that we are hurting them, and that's why they're doing this.
$350,000, I believe, is the offered price by some of the largest drug dealers in Colombia. Why can't we get to these people?
Well, it's an international problem, as we have pointed out, and there are some areas, some havens. Now, I can't speak highly enough of the efforts in Colombia at the present. They are doing a magnificent job. But this has to be done in all countries around the world, and until we get that total international cooperation, we're not going to resolve this problem.
What about cutting off United States aid to those countries that do not cooperate?
Well, this is an option, and I think it's one we have to look at very carefully. Each situation is different, and I realize there are other problems other than the drug problem, although I believe personally this is the most threatening problem at this time.
Francis Mullen, thanks for being with us on the war on drugs.
The voice level okay?
Is that okay?
Just fine, thank you.
Okay.
Am I okay? Okay. Counsel, can you give us a description of what happened last Thursday?
Well, the one thing that we're sure about is that Enrique Camarena, a drug enforcement agent assigned here in Mexico to cooperate with the Mexican authorities, was leaving this building to have lunch with his wife, and he never arrived. We have not received any direct communications concerning him, so that everything else is on the basis of investigations done by the Mexican authorities. There was one incident that was seen where it appears that someone was being forced into an automobile by armed men, but the person being put into the car was not seen, so we are not definitely sure that Kiki, and that's his nickname in Spanish, was the person being taken.
Do you have any idea what happened to him?
Absolutely none. The Mexican authorities have been committing a large number of personnel resources to try and find out what happened to him. We are cooperating with them in their efforts to locate him. The United States government has offered a reward of $50,000 for information leading to the location of his whereabouts. So far, well, obviously the Mexican authorities are the ones who are conducting this investigation, but that reward has not generated, to my knowledge, as yet, any leads that look productive.
If indeed he was kidnapped by traffickers, drug traffickers, do you still expect that he will be found alive?
This incident is, in many ways, very bizarre, so it's hard to say. As long as he is not found, of course there's hopes that he's alive, and that's what we hope will happen. But no matter what happens, as the ambassador has said, this action is, if it was done with the intent of undercutting the commitment of both the Mexican or the American governments to our cooperative program, it's failed. You cannot throw down a gauntlet, this kind of a charge, to a government, either the Mexican or the American government. There is this strong commitment to fight the drug plague, which affects both countries.
How serious is the Guadalajara drug connection?
Well, if you are aware of what's been happening in the United States and here, the Mexican authorities have made significant steps in combating this. There have been large busts here. We have had large arrests in the United States. That doesn't say that the problem is over. There's still a lot to be done. But the problem is serious. We recognize that it's serious. The Mexican government recognizes it's serious. And as a result, there is this commitment that has been for a long time to assist the Mexican government in combating the plague.
Some wire reports have described Guadalajara as the new mafia center in Mexico, the nerve center for all the drug trafficking. Do you get a sense of that living here?
Well, Guadalajara is a city of perhaps 4 million people, second largest. There are a lot of Guadalajaras. There's the Guadalajara that has a large American resident community here. There is a Guadalajara which has a criminal element. It's difficult to typify in one word or in a few words this very large cosmopolitan city.
It would be unfair to then call it a...
Well, as I said, Guadalajara is a large metropolitan area with lots of things going on, some very good and some obviously very bad.
What role is the Drug Enforcement Agency playing in this combat?
Well, as guests of the Mexican government, they are not conducting investigations here. Their role is liaison to cooperate with the Mexican authorities, to help them and the Mexican authorities to help us. There is a significant program here, not only by the Drug Enforcement Agency, but other programs to assist the Mexican government in combating the drug trafficking.
You know, retaliation in general, not connecting Colombia with Mexico, but the...
Well, the drug trade goes through.
No, okay, let me, okay, you ask what you want, I'll have to dive. There are no undiplomatic questions, there are only undiplomatic answers.
That's right. Is there a tension now between the agents and that criminal element, a very serious one that can be felt here? Are you concerned about more retaliations?
Any time when there are law enforcement agents working against a lawless element, there is tension. The work of drug enforcement agents, even though they don't have direct investigative responsibilities, their work abroad is obviously one in which there's an element of risk, there is an element of danger, and there is often a large degree of tension. These men are professionals, well-trained, experienced, and they and their families know that these elements go with the turf. And it's in a large part a recognition of their professionalism that they're willing to live and operate with that kind of tension. When something like this happens, obviously the tension increases. But as the ambassador said, this is not going to stop the ongoing cooperative efforts here in Mexico.
That's very well said. Have you increased the security here? Can you tell us anything about that?
Look, as a result of problems worldwide, any U.S. government building abroad has certain security measures. They were in effect here. We have taken prudent steps to increase, to a certain degree, the security here in this building. But we're here to provide services to American citizens and to Mexican citizens. And work has to go on, and it will go on. the kind of attacks by criminal or terrorist actions cannot frustrate the overall commitment to provide the kind of services that the Foreign Service is dedicated to providing. And excuse me if I get a little bit philosophical about this, but this, it's important that the United States government have the ability to not only know what's going on here, but to represent the United States, not only the government, but its people, in a very important region of Mexico. There are a wide number of economic, social, family ties that connect this area to the United States. One of the small towns just outside of Guadalajara, Ocotlán, is a sister city of Oxnard, California. Another one of the small towns is a sister city of Chula Vista, which is my hometown, near my hometown in San Diego. Guadalajara is a sister city to Portland, Downey, San Antonio. There are important ties to the United States which not only should not but cannot be broken by this kind of an incident.
How safe is it for American tourists here?
Well, one of the problems is when there is a lawless element, innocent people get caught up in it. There is also an element of crime addressed against Americans, not as Americans, just because they're rich. The kind of, we have not identified or seen anything where Americans per se are targets, but Americans, unfortunately, have fallen into problems when they are not careful when they come to Mexico.
The embassy and the consul is not issuing any kind of statement, or I know that Gavin, over the last year, has run into.
Why don't you ask the ambassador that?
Okay, well.
He's the one who issues the statement. I only reflect what his decision is.
Okay, I appreciate greatly what you've done here, and I think that should.
Obviously, I didn't say something. Right now.
Damn it.
Your faith in me, your deep and lasting thing. My life is in your hands. My life is in your hands. Love for you will grow, my God. Your light in me will shine. I am the resurrection, and the life in me will never die. He who believes in me will live a new life. I have come to bring the truth. Have come to bring you life. If you be, I am a resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live a new life. Oh, if you believe, then you shall live. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes.
At this moment, I would invite the congregation to join with me as together we will offer the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as we sing together, God Bless America.
God bless America, and that I stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies to the ocean. ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Afternoon, this sacrifice for the Mass, we wish to extend a very cordial invitation to all the persons who are here representing our government. On behalf of the Diocese of San Diego and likewise Bishop Matta, we wish to Kiki Camarena, his wife, to his mother Dora Camarena, and her son Enrique Jr. Camarena. Likewise, we have a telegram by His Excellency Bishop Leo T. Maher, which I would like to read at this time. It says, this Bishop Leo T. Maher. And as we begin this, and likewise, he is a hero for our country because he tried to free us from the slavery and the atrocities of illegal drugs. So for an act of thanksgiving to Almighty God for a beautiful life and dedication, we now begin the sacrifice of the Mass. En el nombre del Padre, y del Hijo, y del Espíritu Santo. La gracia de Jesucristo, el amor del Padre, y la comunión del Espíritu Santo, que esté con todos ustedes. Hermanos, antes de celebrar los sagrados misterios, reconozcamos que hemos pecado siempre Virgen, a los ángeles, a los santos y a los fieles hermanos, que intercedáis por mí ante Dios nuestro Señor.
Lord, have mercy. Lord, have mercy. Christ, have mercy. Christ, have mercy. We have hurt each other.
Good morning. What will they be committed? Hi, I'm Enrique. Fellow Painting South Bottom. Enrique, as soon as these folks are out of the... Yes, ma'am. She's a suspect. She had been arrested. She was arraigned yesterday before the federal magistrate. Oh, God, there goes my job. No, it's just another, Certainly. My shield's no good? I prefer beige. Like that's probably a long one. Now you pull me down a long one. Are you on this? Or you for 90 days?